hello, welcome everyone. I'm Clemence, Partnership Manager at ChangeNOW. I'm delighted to moderate this panel discussion about how startups and diverse players from the impact ecosystem can use technology to grow and solve our society and our planet's biggest challenges. At ChangeNOW, we see daily the importance of measuring carbon emissions, biodiversity loss, but also our progress, looking at biodiversity restoration, for example. And I look forward to having this discussion with European innovators, each of them bringing their experience with AI and data to the conversation. This talk will be split in two phases. So the first one, looking at the big picture and how tech can be an accelerator of change and how it can empower startups to address social and environmental challenges. Then we will have a second phase looking at practical case studies with impact entrepreneurs embracing AI to save time, money, and energy. Please feel free to comment, ask your question on the YouTube and LinkedIn chat. We'll answer them at the end of the talk. So let's kick off the conversation with my two first guests. Lubomila Jordanova, you're the founder and CEO of PlanA, which helps businesses calculate, monitor, and reduce their carbon footprint. You're also the co-founder of Greentech Alliance, a gathering of 500 startups, I believe, that you connect to advisors, VCs, and businesses. My other guest, Eneric Lopez, is the Director of Artificial Intelligence at Microsoft France. You are in charge of AI, its development in terms of innovation, skills, and impact. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at ChangeNOW, we believe that collaboration is key to solve social and environmental challenges. It really leads everything we do at ChangeNOW. And based on the Greentech Alliance and on the AI for Good initiatives led by Microsoft, I believe we are on the same page on the importance of collaboration. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that. You know, why is it key to work with partners to develop an ecosystem? Lubomila, we might start with you. You co-founded Greentech Alliance, which I mentioned includes, I think, 500 members so far. What led you to create the Alliance? You know, how does it benefit its members?
Thank you so much for the fantastic question and for the wonderful event that we're all gathered here. We're now actually more than 500, close to 600 startups from all over the world. And the reason why we created the community was because we noticed in the beginning of COVID last year that there was a lot of potential threats to the sustainability and green tech community in terms of its growth if there was not communal action, if there was not an opportunity for all of us to collaborate, learn from one another, exchange on technological challenges and opportunities, and build products that actually are complementary to one another. As we know, fighting climate change requires a multitude of different solutions to be implemented, which from our perspective also meant that we needed to connect all the transparent, science-driven tech players and give them an opportunity to work with one another and get resources for free, which is venture capital, which is also access to scientists as well as other experts.
Great. So yeah, multitude of actors and players that need to be gathered. Eneric, can you tell us a bit more about the diverse partnerships that are, conducted and led by Microsoft, and how do you drive all this under the AI for Good scheme?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me and for the opportunity to share what we've been doing with the ecosystem. I will start with sharing with you Microsoft mission statement. I mean, we definitely believe that we are here to empower every organization and every people on the planet to achieve more. And definitely technology, and in particular data and AI, can accelerate innovation and can increase impact. So we see technology as an accelerator moderator. And as far as social, and societal issue are concerned, innovation definitely can come from, social entrepreneur, but we definitely need to scale and to amplify their impact. This is why from a corporate, initiative to local initiative, we have AI for Good program, where we can not only provide technology, support, and mentoring, but also connect each other. Because if we want to solve big issue related to sustainability, to biodiversity, to even diversity and inclusion topics, societal topics, we need to work as ecosystem. We need to connect innovation, social entrepreneur to industry player to public actor, and increase and completely change the practice of a vertical of an industry. And we will jump in those topics, for example, on agri-food. I mean, no one can have the answer on its own. It's definitely a complete value chain and operating model that we need to change. So we see technology as an amplifier, as an accelerator, but definitely ecosystem is the key to scale up.
Great, thank you. I like the idea of amplifying thanks to technology. It's definitely key to gather, measure, map, and analyze data. I think we see it daily in our fight against climate change. And I'm quite eager to find out, maybe Eneric, how you support startups by providing AI tools for them to kind of, work with this data. So what can AI and open data bring to startups, really?
Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about technology. I mean, AI is definitely an accelerator where you can automate, operation, or where you can solve more rapidly issues that you will not solve with human or in a shorter time frame. So definitely AI is something that can provide value, and most of the time we see AI as a very complex stuff where we need data scientist people. Our objective is definitely to democratize it. So if we have tools and technology, like for example API, that can definitely solve the social entrepreneur issue, it's in our hands to make it happen. And also related to data and solution around sustainability topics, for example, we need to share those best practices, but also to share the data and the code that have been produced to solve the scenario. And this is where, if you look at the AI for Earth program that we have, or the planetary computer that we've been launching, the idea is to say, hey, what we have founded in one country or in one company or in one public organization in terms of data or in terms of solution, we need to share it for the entire community to build upon that. And this is where I definitely see, open data, but also data sharing as an opportunity. Let me just give you a quick example. I will talk about the tea bag example. So most of the time we think as open data because everybody can access to the data, but sometimes some data is an intellectual propriety that some actor may not want to give, but they could be able to share it. So this is where technology of data sharing technology can help and bring value. So let's imagine that each of us have a tea bag that we can put in common. We say that it's still our own propriety. The tea bag is our own property, but we can share it and put it in the same bucket of water. We will be able to create a new tea that if the tea was not in common, we would have not created. So using, not only open data, but this data sharing mindshare to solve and identify to solve solution, but to issues, but also find new solution. This is something definitely that we can bring on the table.
Great. Well, I'm happy for us to all create tea together. Lubomila, PlanA, your startup definitely relies a lot on data. Can you tell us a bit more about its potential, its challenges, and how you share your data with other partners?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for the analogy with the tea. I like it. Eneric might use it in other circumstances. So PlanA, for those of the people from the audience that are not familiar, is a 4-year-old company based in Berlin that has a full-fledged scientific team and combines technology and science to enable businesses to make better decisions. In this, we have 2 products. One is a software that uses AI and a lot of data of different sorts to enable businesses to understand their carbon footprint and then also start reducing it by using the predicted suggestions that we give on how you can reduce your emissions. And then the second product that is kind of at the moment sitting on a shelf is what we were doing in 2018 a bit more, and we're going to reignite in the coming year, is our climate risk tool, where we're using publicly available data related to oceans, forests, wildlife, sustainable living, sustainable energy and waste management, to be able to predict where and how climate change will hit the hardest and how different industries and supply chains are going to be impacted by that. We believe that data is a key source of truth that can only be utilized for good if all of us work with the same intentions. That is why we've decided to collaborate with organizations like Yale Open Lab, with MIT and some of the Biodiversity Institutes, and other institutions like Climate Kick, where we're able to essentially look at all of these data points and concretely focus on solutions that are necessary for the biggest challenges that we face, not only as businesses, but also in general as a planet, as a biodiversity ecosystem. And by combining all these different elements, then we can equip businesses to be more responsible knowingly, because at the moment they are a bit kind of concerned about what they need to do, but not always know how to do it. So in a nutshell, we focus on the reduction element and then predictive capabilities to prevent any climate risk that can lead to unattended capex or other kind of expenses that you might end up having to face due to climate change.
Great, thank you. I love the idea of a force for good. I think using AI data and also just skills and knowledge. Fantastic. Well, thank you to both of us for these first insights. Now let's jump to the second phase of our live talk with 2 new guests. I'm pleased to welcome Stéphane Gigandet. You are the CEO of Open Food Facts, a database of food products, where you gather a lot of data about ingredients, allergens, nutritional facts, but also the impact of products on our health and on our planet. I believe what makes a strong difference to other rating apps is that Open Food Facts is international, it's free, and most of all, it's collaborative. So far, you have listed and referenced over 1.6 million products, and this is done by 15,000 contributors. So that's a lot of data and a lot of collaboration. How do you handle all this content? How does it work?
So one difference as well is that Open Food Facts is not a startup. We are a non-profit organization, just like Wikipedia. So I'm not really a CEO, I'm more of a founder of the organization. We created Open Food Facts because we all eat every day, and as you said, increasingly what we eat has impact on our health, on the health of the planet. Just a couple of figures that are stunning is that half of the world population is overweight. Food is responsible for 25% of the carbon emissions globally. But the good news is that more and more of us are willing to act, to change that. The issue is that we are lacking the data and knowledge to actually do that. If you go to a supermarket, for instance, there are lots of choices, but it's very difficult to know what is the right choices. And that's why we created Open Food Facts. And it works just like Wikipedia. I have one slide to show you what the database looks like. So I don't know if you can see it yet because I don't have any visual back, but yes, perfect. So you can see it. So this is what Open Food Facts look like. And so consumers use it to make better informed choices. And we have an application as well where we we analyze also all this data about food products to try to understand what is the impact on health. This is, for instance, the Nutri-Score that we compute. And in January, we launched the Eco-Score, which measures the impact on the environment. And all this data is also something that we give as open data, and it is used, for instance, by the scientists to do research. So more than 50 research papers have been used with this data. And Eneric and Lubomila were talking also about ecosystems. We share this data also with food producers. Because one thing is to inform consumers, but we also need to grow the quality of the food offer. So we have a free platform for producers. When we take their data, we analyze it, and we show them all the ways that they can improve their food products. For instance, all the products where they can easily change the Nutri-Score from B to A.
Great. I love how collaborative it is and how every single citizen can, in fact, influence the industry in the food industry by just gathering data. Our next speaker, Michael, is here from Belgian-based BeeOdiversity startup. So at BeoDiversity, you assist companies and local authorities, I believe, in setting up strategies and developing environmental projects. Can you tell us a bit more about your mission and how you work with small and large organizations?
Yes, hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain that. So we really try to create value with biodiversity regeneration. So we work for smart cities, real estate companies, the food business, industries, etc., to really help them to use biodiversity and the regeneration of biodiversity as a value creator. And one of the tools that we've developed is, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll continue. One of the tools that we've developed, we noticed that there was a lack of data regarding pollution and biodiversity worldwide. And we realized that these could actually collect billions of samples of the environment, and that by analyzing these samples, we could see whatever kind of industrial and agricultural pollution you had, but also the local biodiversity and the issues there were in the environment and what could be done to really improve things. And so that's why we collaborate with bees, with more than 10 million bees in more than 10 countries, to really collect this data on pollution and biodiversity and share that data to local partners so that they can act and improve the environment in a sustainable way.
Great. So as you said, we see more and more players sharing the data, from bees to entrepreneurs to larger corporations such as Microsoft and governments. And indeed, as Eneric was saying earlier, open data allows for more efficiency, transparency, and more innovation globally. It's of great value for many entrepreneurs and actors such as ChangeNOW. Michael, Stéphane, you are collecting a lot of data. Are you making it all accessible? You mentioned it a bit earlier, but I'm curious to see if you are working in full open data, and if so, why did you make that decision to make it open? Maybe Stéphane, we can start with you.
Sure. So yes, when we said that Open First Facts is like Wikipedia, we really mean it in every way. So we are a non-profit organization. All our code is open source, and all our data is open data, because we are really convinced that it makes absolute sense to build a common good. And one reason why it makes sense to build that common good is that it is very hard to collect data, to structure it, and to analyze it. So we don't have billions of bees, but as you said, we have the tens of thousands of contributors that scan food products and take pictures, and we collect data that way. And thanks to AI, we can. So I have a slide on that shows a little bit what we do with AI. We can extract data from photos, like labels and logos. And we have this project with Microsoft and its partners, Accenture and Westwood, where we extract data from nutrition facts. And it is a lot of work, and AI is saving us a lot of work, a lot of hours for our volunteers. So it multiplies the value of our volunteers. And that's because it takes so much work that it really doesn't make sense for multiple teams to do the same work all over again in multiple places. And that's why we think it's very critical to make all this data open data, because that's the best way to achieve the maximum impact and to induce systemic change.
Eneric, maybe it's time for you to tell us a bit more about the Share AI program and how you work with 13 partners, including Accenture and other companies, as Stéphane mentioned, to provide both tools and skills to impact entrepreneurs. And I'm quite curious to know how it works, but also what are kind of the challenges that Microsoft and its partners are facing when working with AI? Because I believe that challenges are both valid for Microsoft and large groups and startups.
Yeah, so in our mission to empower NGOs or social entrepreneurs and to give them the technology that can amplify their impact, what we have discovered is that first, most of the conversation that we have with NGO or a social entrepreneur and even with a corporation is that they are seated on gold mine data and that they don't know. For example, last year at ChangeNOW, we were showcasing Eneric des éleveurs, a social entrepreneur, Fabrice Egron, who didn't was already having an impact on the way that he produced milk with a low carbon footprint, but increasing the revenue from the farmers. But he was sitting on the gold mine because he has data that he was not using. So making them aware that the data that they have or the data that they can obtain quite easily is something that they should leverage is the first, let's say, value that you can have, but be also the first blocker that we see. Also the skills in terms of awareness. Driving the social entrepreneur and also the entire ecosystem that AI is not only a data science play. You can use AI even if you're not a data scientist. AI is something that you can use with API and not everything is related to custom model. Sometimes you need custom model. Sometimes you can use off-the-shelf, AI off-the-shelf API and definitely have an impact. But of course, we need resources. We need developers, and this is why we go and chase for pro bono resources to complement the coalition and the work that we've been doing within Share AI, which is a pro bono intrapreneurship program. But also we need key industry players to join us. Because if we definitely want them to scale, if we want, open food facts, and if we want biodiversity to scale, we need to connect them with key industry players from their ecosystem, from their industry, and increase their impact, not only in sharing the data, but using the solution and improving the solution. So this is why we rely on IT company, so our partner, for example, Accenture, Avanade, Azeo, but SQL, you name it, we have a lot of partners that put pro bono resources in it, but we also need key industry players to join the party and make it scale.
Great. And that's what we organize ChangeNOW, it's to gather all these players for them to meet. And actually, Stéphane and Michael being here today is a bit of a ChangeNOW success story because you both met Eneric at ChangeNOW 2020, and you are now part of the 2020 Share AI program of Microsoft. This is the kind of collaborations that we love. And we all look forward to seeing you at ChangeNOW 2021, obviously. Michael, can you tell us a bit more about how you work with Microsoft? For you in integrating AI in your business?
Yeah, actually, I like what Eneric said, because we have data that is very unique, but we don't value it. And so now with artificial intelligence, we will be able to extrapolate this data to assess the quality of any given site in the world in terms of biodiversity and pollution. And that's by combining the data we have that is super unique with mapping tools and other data sets. And that's really important for us, and that's why artificial intelligence will enable us to provide this data to many other stakeholders, whereas today we mainly work with big cities or companies. With AI, we will be able to put data open source to citizens, local municipalities, and so on, so that they will know exactly what are the risks in their environment and what can be done to change things. And so Microsoft and their partners are helping us on the development of all this platform, which is quite complicated in terms of AI and so on. And so they help us really to build it and hopefully to live very soon. And so that's how Microsoft helped us during these last months.
Great. And so I'm just going to bring in one of the questions from the public, because it's very much connected to what we're saying about, what are the necessary skills? What expertise do you need to collect, map, analyze, structure the data? Eneric, we had a conversation a couple of days ago about the need for more data scientists, both at Microsoft and within startups. Can you share a bit more about how you are trying to get people excited about data?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you can need, people working on data, so data engineer, data analyst, etc. But maybe you're not at that level of expertise needed. Most of the time we can solve we can provide solution, and you can solve issue using developer. This is why if you look at the French market, it's almost the same in the European Union and globally. We mostly train people on AI at a master degree and above, but we definitely also need good developers, people that are able to, AI, not engineer, but AI developers, AI bachelor level. This is why, by the way, we're working with Simplon, and we have created an AI school to give the opportunity for people to upskill and reskill and find a new job and be a good AI developer. So depending on the scenario where you want to use AI, it's not bac plus 5, master degree where you will need data engineering and skills. Maybe you just need good developers and people who are willing to work on that space.
Great. Maybe Stéphane, as a non-profit, you can also share your point of view. Open Food Fact is huge in terms of data, but quite small in terms of team members. How did you train with data? How do you work with the AI tools day to day?
So most of the work at Open Food Fact is done actually by volunteers. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are volunteers from the open source world. So we have those pro bono resources from Share AI. We also try to work with other initiatives like Data for Goods or with engineering schools with student projects. And as Eneric said, there are a lot of different skill sets that are needed, because we build custom models for some very specific issues like nutrition fat extraction. But then after that, we need to integrate this data into our mobile applications and website, and then we also need people to do visualization. So we need a very diverse skill set. And what we try to do at Open Food Fact is to do it in a very open way. All our code is on GitHub, open source. You can see all the bugs. Everyone is welcome to participate, and there's a lot to learn. I'm learning every day, and I think a lot of people are learning every day in that field.
Great. Going back to you, maybe Lubomila, can you tell us a little bit more about the challenges that you face at PlanA, but also maybe at Greentech Alliance? Is that something that you are all training to improve your skills, and that you see that kind of lack of data experts?
We actually see lack of data that is well structured and well organized. We work with corporate carbon footprints, and what we quite often notice is that even in the largest organizations that have offices around the world, some of the data points related to their supply chains or to any kind of even facility energy management is not necessarily close by. Which is where we can predict the values. We're able to kind of use some algorithms to understand, but when we get into the nitty-gritty of it, then it gets quite tricky, and that's why we have a full-fledged scientific team to do that. When it comes to skill sets, I think for us what has been particularly interesting to observe is that there is a gap between kind of the science community. We work heavily with climate data scientists and reduction experts and others, and machine learning experts. So you can't find a blend between the two quite easily, which is why we're training internally our team to be equipped with both sides of the coin, as it allows us to then scale our product more kind of visibly. One sentence about maybe the members of the Greentech Alliance. These are 600 companies, and these are companies working with quite a lot with AI and different types of data points. Mostly all of them are working with data. What they notice is that there's low data literacy on a consumer level. I think Stéphane mentioned this is an obstacle to kind of, kicking off maybe the project, but then also getting consumers to start thinking about this topic. I think we as a society all need to work a bit harder to make use of all the data we have access to. And it's fantastic to be here to learn also about opportunities that for this to be used.
Great. And so I'm going back to the importance of collaboration that Lou and Eneric you mentioned earlier. I'm quite curious to know, do you, Stéphane, Michael, Lou, work with other major networks? And what do these partners bring to your startups? Maybe you can start with you, Michael.
Well, we have a lot of different kind of partners. The main ones are large companies. They bring us, know-how. They bring us visibility. They bring us projects. They bring us impact, and they bring us network. And I think that's the most important, is to be able to rely on these kind of big partners that can, bring our solutions to the global network and have more impact. Then we have partners such as Microsoft, Accenture, and so on, who challenge us and bring us skills that we don't have to help us to scale and meet the challenge in terms of data collection, artificial intelligence, etc., which is complicated. And then, of course, other kind of partners like Ashoka, who help us also to scale up. Basically, the idea when you want to have impact is to scale up, and so you need all partners that believe in your project and in your why, I would say, to help you to have this impact.
Right. I love how they both support you, but also challenge you to develop further and to scale further. Stéphane, do you have anything to add to that pretty good answer from Michael?
Yes, so to go even further, we have a lot of reusers of the Open Food Facts data, like more than 150 other applications, services, scientists. And what's interesting is that they bring us their problems, like they want to create a new score for the environment or for the social responsibility, or they are from another country, like for instance, right now we are working with an application from Russia. And what's interesting is that we all collaborate on trying to solve those problems. And when we do solve them, we try to solve them for the entire world. So for instance, I'm currently working on improving the Russian parsing of list of ingredients to recognize all the different ingredients, but it's enriching the project for everyone. And that's what we try to do with all our partners. We partner, for instance, with Santé Publique France, the French health agency, to make a platform for manufacturers so that they can open their data. But of course, we try to do it for the whole world. And so now it was funded by Santé Publique France, but now it works for the whole world. So I think that's what's interesting when you have this collaboration mindset, this open data, open source mindset, is that the solutions that you create them once, and then everybody helps to improve them, and it benefits everyone after that.
Great. I'll bring in a question from Quentin in the audience. Maybe, Eneric, you can tell us a bit more about how does the collaboration between the stakeholders work very concretely, day to day?
Yes. So if we take the example of, for example, what we've been doing at Share AI, I mean, very concretely is to meet with a social entrepreneur or NGO and understand the solution that they bring and identify where there is opportunity for them to leverage technology and data and AI. Where is it that we can increase the way that they capture information or in their own operation? For example, if AI can not only increase the velocity of analyzing stuff or capturing information that we will need because it will enrich the experience or provide insight for you to have a new scenario. So we have that, let's say, scoping phase where we identify where technology can bring value and then define the most viable project that we could build together. And then we are entering in a phase of development, but also a phase of scaling the solution. So identify where Microsoft and its entire ecosystem, not only the IT ecosystem, but the key industry player we are having on board. So big corporation, but also public relation, that we can also come to the table and increase the value of the solution or increase the impact in working together on that part.
Great, thank you. A final question from me before we go to the audience. And again, if you have any question, please feel free to ask them in the YouTube and LinkedIn chat. Michael, Lubomila, Stéphane, do you have any dream partner? And what do you need for your next phase? Let's be ambitious and creative. Who do you want to work with? Lou, do you want to start?
I think one exciting partner would be actually the European Union. There's so much data that is being financed to be created and collected by them. And at the moment, it's not necessarily commercially viable. There's also a lot of blocks to be able to access the data. There's also a lot of fees involved and so on. And I think if there's an opening up of this data, we can be a lot more effective with the Green Deal and also other challenges that we face as a society.
Cool. Let me talk to Franz Timmermans. I'll get back to you. Stéphane, any dream partner? What would you need, on your wish list?
I dream of partnering with international foundations because they share a goal of achieving a global systemic change. And I think they could really help us to replicate the impact that we had in France with the Nutri-Score, for instance, to more countries much more rapidly. And in terms of what we need to grow internationally that ecosystem that Lubomila and Eneric have talked about. We need more food producers to share their data with us. We need more science team to use our data for their research, more developers, more contributors who can help us with our AI work or mobile applications, more also national agencies, health agencies, environment agencies to work with us so that we can achieve a bigger impact together.
Great. Sounds ambitious and exciting. Michael, any large European global partner?
Yeah, well, of course, I would say any global partner, so NGO or public entity that wants to work on the biodiversity issue, the sustainable food issue with lowering pesticides and so on, or reducing pollution. We are very keen to meet them. And, as said before, of course, if European Commission can open the access to some data, And it's the same for big NGOs working on the environmental issues and so on. I think it would help everyone.
Right. Let's take some questions from the public. So we have a question for you, Lou. If there's no plan B, what's plan A? And how much time do we have to implement changes? What are the next phase?
That's a wonderful question. Yes, in Plan A we say, and we believe that there's no Plan B for the planet. What is Plan A? Plan A is a tech provider. We're a software company that enables businesses to eliminate their emissions and make better decisions. We're also an ecosystem because for the reduction suggestions that we make, we actually work with these hundreds of companies that are in the Greentech Alliance to enable companies to not only theoretically understand how they need to address their reduction challenge, but also to implement it and see the results. How much time do we have? I'm always shying away from these questions because I think we each day define how much time we have. By the fact that this conversation is happening, by the fact that hopefully there's some people that are inspired to either join a company similar to the ones presented here or work on their own solution, or be more mindful as consumers by using the open food networks. So there's multiple ways in which you can engage, and I think this is essentially what defines how much time we have. There's definitely no plan B because humanity is at stake, so we hopefully decide to take some decisive actions in the coming years and days even.
Great. And Stéphane and Michael, we have quite a few questions about how you work with Microsoft. How is it to work with such an industry player? Is it accessible? Is it easy? Is it challenging? Tell us a bit more. Stéphane, maybe you can start.
Sure. Well, the people we have worked with at Microsoft are very accessible, and we really like the fact that they do take a lot of time to understand our needs and see how they can help us, but not only they, but their ecosystem of partners and customers. So far it has been a very pleasant experience, and we are quite happy that they decided to help us. The pro bono resources that Microsoft partners put at our disposal are very, very helpful because machine learning scientists are in very high demand, and as a NGO, we have only 3 full-time employees. It would be impossible for us to employ those people. So, yeah, so far it's a very good collaboration.
Michael, can you tell us about your side of the story?
I was actually surprised because we already worked with other large corporates, and sometimes it's a bit difficult to understand each other between a startup and a large company. But in this case, it was super easy. It took a bit of time to define the project, of course, but once it was clear, then you have a huge leverage effect with a partner like Microsoft. In terms of network, in terms of skills, in terms of meeting your challenges. So it was fairly easy and super.
Right. And Eneric, your turn. What are the criteria you're looking at when you select the solutions and startups you work with? I believe ShareAI selects 12 startups per year, which allows you to give that really, it allows you to give a lot of time and skills to these 12 solutions per year. But can you tell us how you select them?
Yeah, sure. You know that we have this local initiative, ShareAI, but you have the global one, the global social entrepreneur program, but also we have this AI for Good initiative, AI for Earth, AI for humanitarian action, AI for accessibility. Our objective is definitely to bring value and to increase impact. So if we can bring value, if it's that we need to work with, I would say, quite mature social entrepreneur or NGO. If it's really, when I say mature, I mean that they already have an impact or that they already have a solution. Because it's not that we do not want to consider the other, it's that if we want to have an impact, if we want to, let's say, bootstrap some technology solution, I mean, it has to rely on, you know, foundations, societal foundation. I mean, and we are not the specialist of, you know, societal impact or social innovation. I mean, those guys are the ones that are inventing the new solution, and we are here to amplify and to bring value to them. So first, a certain level of maturity, and of course, I mean, a solution where we can provide value is that by connecting them to the rest of our ecosystem. So if you are more, you know, if you have an activity that is related to B2B or B2B2C, this is where we can bring value, because we are really connected with, you know, commercial, you know, big organization. So that's the main criteria, I would say the maturity in terms of impact solution and where we can, let's say, implement technology. So you need to have not already technology within your solution, but an appetite for it, and also where we can connect with the rest of our ecosystem, so industry players.
Right. So looking at that gold mine of data and the value that can be put together by all these partnerships. Yeah. So I think our time is up, and thank you again for such a great conversation. I think we saw how collaboration is needed to ensure that the data is collected and that it contributes to sustainability and collecting and share, obviously. So it was great to see how AI can unleash a lot of possibilities, and especially when as part of an ecosystem. I believe the best practices we just shared with PlanA, with Open Food Facts, with Biodiversity were fantastic testimonies to the potential of AI collaboration and data. So let's keep working together. Let's build new partnerships. And thank you so much to all the participants and to the tech team behind the scene. It went super smoothly, and that was great. We look forward to seeing you at ChangeNOW 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.